fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The Daytona 500 is famous for its slot as the season opener on the NASCAR schedule, but let's not forget the true curtain racer, the Clash at Daytona. A race that always delivers true mayhem as all the moving pieces and parts finally fall into place and are tested for the first time in a proper racing environment. Today, we'll get a solid preview at the ones to watch in next week's Daytona 500. It's the first special event of the 2020 major season. It's the Clash at Daytona, and it's live on the iRacing Esports Network and presented by SimSpeed TV. My name is Ryan Jones, and alongside me is Jay Kennedy, who is also on the cameras for this one. And Jay, we got drivers from all three regions, we got a full field, and it's the first NASCAR race in the major season. It should be a good one.
Yeah, hello everyone, wherever you're watching around the world. An early start for us over here in the Oceanic region, but it's going to be a fantastic day / night of racing. Looking forward to it. Always love, well, you and I are both big stock car racing fans. This is our bread and butter. This is what we love. And to be a part of the Clash for this year is very, very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. 75 laps of absolute sheer mayhem and chaos. There's going to be some very, very good fun coming up over the next couple of hours.
Yes, certainly. And they're not playing for sheep stations. They got something to fight for out there, the winner of the top split. Because we've got, I just added it up, about 120, 130 drivers trying to make top split. So it'll be about 4 or 5 splits in this one. So the winner of that main event that we are broadcasting will win a diecast model of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s number 3 GM Goodwrench Plus NASCAR 1999 Monte Carlo in a 118 size as well. So a decent prize on offer for these drivers, and should make anyone who is big into their collectibles, as I am certainly into. I've got way too many collectible cars and stuff, and I think that one, a Dale Earnhardt Sr. number 3, that'd be a fantastic addition to anyone's collection, wouldn't it?
100%, it'd be very, very cool to have. So, awesome little prize up for basically just a glorified practice run before next weekend's main event, the 500 here on the iRacing Esports Network, which should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Next weekend it will be very, very cool, and of course we'll have all the action of all 3 regions here on the iRacing Esports Network. Be 4 separate broadcasts throughout the weekend as well, with our first one here next Saturday here on SimSpeed TV. GSRC Race Spot as well will have their respective regions, that being the Americas and European regions, on Sunday next week, and there's also a Sportsman's broadcast as well. So it should be very, very cool. And then some other really cool events coming up in the schedule as well, but we'll talk about them throughout the race when we get under some caution periods. But strategy wise is always such a big key around Daytona, and we were just talking beforehand around if it's a very big if we get a long green flag run, or if it stays green. But there is a potential with the skill of the drivers that we do have out there. If we get a really, really long green flag run, we could see green flag pit stops in this race. Highly unlikely that we will, but there is that little thought in the back of these drivers' minds is, what if it does stay green? It's going to be a very, very cool race either way.
Yeah, look, I'm not holding my breath for a long green flag run on this one. It's certainly something that drivers will have to think about in terms of strategy, but I think most of them are going hard and flat out for the entirety of the race, expecting that caution to fly before the green flag stops, get underway. What is currently underway is qualifying to set the grid, to set the splits, which is, as we also mentioned before the show, incredibly harsh because, as we know, super speedway, it's flat out, you're not lifting. You could go around there and not make a single mistake, do absolutely perfect, and you could miss top split. It really depends on if you've got that setup nailed or not, because if you don't, you'll be losing a couple tenths, and that'll put you down a couple splits even from the top.
Yeah, with 120 odd drivers, that means we'll be split into 3 or 4 races. So, you know, if you're that 1 or 2 tenths off, with considering how tight this field is, in the session that we are watching right now, the top 28 are separated by under half a second. So it's incredibly close, as now the top 30 is separated by half a second. So it's really, really tight in all of the servers and all of the sessions. So when we go green for racing in around about 10 minutes time, it's going to be incredibly tight, and we will definitely see the best of the best, the fastest of the fastest out there at the front of the field. Interesting to see that we've got a really big mix of skill levels as well, from drivers that are fairly new to the oval side of things to the most experienced drivers out there. So it make it very, very interesting as well, because experience around this circuit is such a key. You and I have both done a lot of racing at this circuit, and finishing a race at Daytona is a huge effort. To win a race at Daytona is nigh on impossible. Both of us have been lucky enough to have very, very good results here, but it's more about keeping out of trouble than having outright pace, isn't it?
It is. This time last year, I wasn't even commentating. I was racing the 500, and I think that was my best result in the history of broadcasted events. I came third, and I've never been at the front of a broadcasted series ever again. So I hold that one pretty high in my history books, especially being the Daytona 500. That alone is such a prestigious event, isn't it? And to win that race, it's a bragging right. And
I will continue on about it for the rest of my life, that I've won a Daytona 500.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Yes.
How?
Didn't you know that I've won a Daytona 500? I won the Australian New Zealand the NASCAR iRacing series back in 2014. We had an Australian only split. We actually had 2 splits, and I won the top split of that race with my teammates in 2nd and 5th. So very, very cool race, and yeah, I did pick up the win. So that was pretty cool.
Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. Turns out Jay does know how to drive. He's just very lucky sometimes, and occasionally gets that win. It's a running joke up here in SimSpeed that Jay does never ever get on the track. He's always up in the booth doing a ridiculous amount of broadcasts. We've got a pretty busy schedule coming up, don't we, Jay, for SimSpeed TV? We've got 11 series next month in March, which for a one-man production team of yourself it's quite the effort. Do your family know who you are anymore?
No, they haven't seen me for a long while. So yeah, my family have forgotten who I am and what I look like. No, they're very, very supportive of it as well. So actually, you heard before, I had my son in here testing out things for me. He's only 7 and comes in and helps test out the cameras and make sure everything's going smoothly. So he's a very, very good helper. But yeah, now we're just at the point now where we wait for the race server to go up, and then from there we will get the green flag underway for 75 laps in the clash. It's going to be very, very fun, and I'm not sure what to expect. I mean, I know that a lot of guys have done a lot of practice, but then you also look at some of the drivers up there in the higher reaches of qualifying that may not have done anywhere near as much practice. So it's a real big mix in who's done a lot of practice and who hasn't. That could lead to some issues. There's been a lot of chat around bump drafting and whose responsibility it is with bump drafting. So hopefully a lot of drivers that are trying to bump show a lot of caution, and fingers crossed we just sit in a pack for a little while and then we slowly start to play this big game of chess that a race at Daytona is.
Yes, of course that, and also this will be the auto driver's first Super Speedway race with any of the NASCARs with the new tire model too. So just learning how the car handles over the first couple of laps as the tires get up to temp as well. May find it's moving around a little bit more than you would like it to, and it may just make it a little bit more difficult to line up those pushes if you are going to try and bump someone forward. And hold your line, because it's absolutely crucial. If you don't hold your line, if you slide up the track just to the slightest amount, not only are you going to ruin your race, you ruin the race of the guy next to you and the 20-odd cars behind you as well. That's the tension and excitement of Super Speedway racing. Is you have sometimes a full 40-car field separated by about 2 seconds, and if one person makes a mistake, it can have seismic consequences.
It's so much trust involved in this sort of racing, and those that don't watch a huge amount of racing of this kind may not realise how much trust you need to put in to your fellow competitors. Even if they're someone that you don't normally trust on track, you've got no choice but to trust them and try and work with them. You've got to find a partner to draft with. So if we do see green flag stops, that's going to be key as well. But working out who on track you can trust come those final 5-10 laps is also a big key. And that's some of the chess moves that you play in your first 20-30 laps, is working out who you can draft with, who's safe to work with and who isn't, or who you can trust more than someone else, and then trying to get yourself in a position where you can work with that person later on in the race. A lot easier said than done though.
And then when it comes to the final lap, or the final couple of laps, you completely abandon them and go out there and try to win that. That's what we normally see, because at the end, it's
not
every
what you
man
should
for
do.
themselves. No, but the racing mind takes over, doesn't it? And unless you're working with teammates, so to speak, you want to go out there and get the best result for yourself. Everyone's friends till that final lap and that white flag falls.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And well, most people are friendly out there. It does get a little bit heated, and super speedway racing does get quite heated amongst the drivers. I know that you can often find a lot more aggro within drivers at super speedway races than at other oval races. So fingers crossed we see a nice clean race. I don't expect us to not have cautions at any point. There's no doubt that we'll see a caution. I'm thinking maybe 3. Fingers crossed we don't see 5, 6, 7. That would make it a very, very long race. But yeah, I think that working out who you can trust early on is going to be such a big, crucial thing. You wouldn't be scared if you've got someone that you can work with to drop back a little bit from that lead pack and then slowly work your way back forward later on in the race. But yeah, it's a tough one to work out what to do. Do you want to sit at the front and wait for the right move or the right position to then go forward at the end? Or do you drop back and then work your way back forward again? It's going to be very, very interesting to see what drivers do. We're not far away from getting this race underway.
Just waiting for the splits to be determined and those servers to go up. A lot of drivers to sift through, a lot of qualifying times to sift through for the man responsible for getting these servers up and running. I believe once they go up, it'll be a 5-minute practice or warm-up session to allow everyone time to get into the server, and then we'll head straight into green flag action. 75 laps ahead of us today. 1 green-white-checkered attempt should we need it. And the servers have just gone up to 37 car splits, it looks like, so a very big field. 1 green-white-checkered attempt if we need it, and of course, full course cautions, as is always the way with the NASCAR action we see in the Majors Series. Not the first, not the only time we're going to see NASCAR this season of Majors, is it, Jay?
No, we will see them out on track, as we said, next weekend, and of course we will have the World 600 later on in the season as well, which has always been an interesting race, a tough race, 600-mile race, the longest race on the NASCAR schedule. So that will mean that it always turns into a very, very long one. But it's probably more difficult to win the 600-mile than it is Daytona. I mean, Daytona, there is a lot of luck involved, but the fatigue level in the huge long race at Charlotte is such a tough one. I'm looking forward to that one. So that'll be a very, very fun race. And of course, we've got Rockingham coming up at the end of this month as well.
That's in the old NASCARs, the current NASCAR K&N cars. That's on the 1st of March.
Yep, so it'll be the 29th
So-
of February in the international
That's
region.
right. It's always confusing for us. We've got to bring it back a day and then work out the time difference. But good job getting the series getting the time slots perfect for all 3 regions. It's a difficult prospect, isn't it? But we've seen some big participation in all three regions, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, and of course, the season 1 we had a bit of trouble working out where to actually put the international region, particularly. We were up against other events, major events in Australia and New Zealand, mainly V8 Scops, so we ran on a different weekend, and it didn't really work last year. We swapped to a Saturday, and that has seen participation double or more. So looking forward to this season. I mean, we saw last race at Daytona for the 2.4, how huge numbers we had out on track. So to see something similar to that again will be very, very cool. At the moment, looks like we could have record numbers for all 3 regions for the Daytona 500, and we're still a week away. That's just in registration so far, so this should be very, very interesting to see how many drivers we get. Looking forward to seeing how many we do get. It's going to be a very, very cool week coming up. Of course, the duels coming up as well for the drivers as well. Won't be broadcast, the duels, but they are always entertaining for the drivers as well.
I did lobby for it, but I think sometimes you can do too much broadcasting for one person. Jay needs his rest, and I think the other broadcasters have got clashes as well. Hey, maybe next year we'll end up broadcasting the duels, because they're a lot of fun, those ones. So they're even more frantic and frenetic than the clash sometimes, because it can determine whether it will determine whether you make the 500 or not. You need to finish well on those ones.
100%. You need to make sure that you get yourself right up towards the pointy end. So, yeah, making sure you do really well in those duels makes it a lot easier to make the main event than to try and qualify your way in. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing the results of those. And, of course, all of the results in the live standings are available on the Majors website. So make sure you do check out that. That's pacificmajors.com. Now, we're not far off getting pictures through. We're just making sure that we've got the right server to make sure that we can provide coverage of the right group of people. And it looks like we've got the right one.
Yep, it's the right one, because none of my teammates made it in the top split. How good. Highlighting how much setup is very much dependent, because I can assure you none of them lifted it off at all, and there were 2 tenths adrift. 2 tenths, and they're in second split. It's ridiculously tight, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, when you've got so many drivers in a track that you are going 100%, setup is such a huge and integral part of that. So ensuring you've got a really, really good quality setup is such a key, and that's where a lot of the bigger teams have a huge advantage, and the American side of things definitely have an advantage over the European and international regions, just based on the nature of what they race more than others. So yeah, it does make it a little bit harder for some teams and some drivers, but nonetheless, it means that the racing that we are going to see is going to be even more exciting.
It is, and even more exciting for me, because I haven't had as much experience, or I haven't watched the American, European regions as much as I have the international. So I'm about to learn today who the form people are, which means I can't really give you much of a preview. So I reckon this guy's going to be right. It's going to be exciting for all of us to learn who's going to come out on top on this one. Exciting to learn who the fast guys are in the American, European regions, Jay, because it could be any of these guys.
Yep.
And, well, at Daytona.
Well, I mean, yeah, it could be anyone anyway at Daytona. I mean, you don't have to be the fastest guy. I mean, you had to be the fastest guy to get out there into the race, but you don't necessarily have to be the fastest guy to win at Daytona. I mean, I'm living proof of that, as we just talked about before. But yeah, it's not necessarily about out-and-out speed and pace at Daytona. It's more about keeping yourself out of trouble and keeping yourself in the race. It's not about your outright speed, being at the front, being in the lead the whole race. You don't necessarily want to be there the whole race. You want to be there at the end, but the rest of the race is absolutely up for grabs. And the new aero package, as we were talking about before, we'll see this race played out a little bit different from what we've seen in previous years as well.
Yeah, we will. Obviously, a lot more downforce on the 2020 and 2019 Cup cars than we saw in previous years. Last year in the Daytona 500, we hadn't had the updated package come to iRacing just yet, so this will be the first, or next week will be the first Daytona 500 with this new package. And of course, we've had the Coke Zero 400 since then. For these drivers to test out at this track, but I could still say you're the first person to win the 500 with the new package. And these drivers will get a good feel for how their setups work in a racing environment today. Over the course of 75 laps, how does the car wear out over the run? How big of a run do you get? And just how do you use it to the right effect?
And the other thing is too, how much driving have you done in a pack? Sure, you might have done a little bit of driving with 3 cars, 4 cars in a group, but times that by 7 or 8, you get yourself into a 30-car pack. How do your nerves handle that? Because that can be some of the most nerve-wracking driving out there, where you have to be so precise for such a long amount of time. Very, very, very tiring as well. So understanding how to drive in these big, huge battle packs is a skill and an art in its own. Once we see groups in the 20 plus, we will have some really, really interesting battles, some interesting driving, and we'll see who has the nerves of steel. There's some drivers actually practicing green flag pit stops, so they're anticipating the possibility that we could see them. I'm thinking we could as well. I'm thinking that we may see a green flag stop with, say, around 20 laps to go. That could make things very, very spicy.
I think definitely once they settle the nerves and shake themselves out of it, they'll probably get a decent green flag run. And whether it'll be long enough for a green flag pit stop remains to be seen. We'll find out in about 2 minutes' time when we get the green flag. Just under a minute left on the warm-up session. All the drivers pretty much now have got themselves in and just waiting for that formation lap, of course. And we'll go through the grid as well and tell you how they stack up for this one. I can tell you there's a good mix of American, and there's a few European region drivers in here. No one from the international region. So it's predominantly a American region preview for the Clash, the stop split.
Yeah, it's going to make it a little bit interesting with that group as well, because of course we know that they're more used to driving with people from their region in these sort of races as well. So racing against people from a different area can provide different racing too. So and as we said before too, all different skill levels throughout this. We can see drivers from rookie class on iRacing all the way up to A class iRatings, anywhere from 900 all the way up to 5,000. So that will make it really interesting. Checkered flag is out for the warm-up session. Here we go. This is about it. It's time to go through the grid.
Starting off pole position will be Mike Kelly in the number 2 machine. He's got Michael Lane alongside him. Claude Belville starts from 3rd with Alexander Wiegert off of 4th. Eddie Hawks and Michael Hagstrom off the 3rd row of the grid. Ernie Ludwig 7th and Aldous Patelkis 8th. Sorry. Steve Driscoll 9th and Scott Corbin starts from 10th.
Yeah, then we've got Jeff Scheimer in 11th position with Marcus Tracy alongside John King. We do have a driver from the international region. John King has made it in 13th position. I didn't see him on the list either. My eyes must have gone straight past him there. Brian McGreevy in 14th position. The 8th row has Andrew Waring and Christopher Ems, with Liam Sheen and Wayne Hutchison on row 9. Row 10 has Rob Gall and Brian Barnes.
So 21st would be Adam Passaponte from 11th, Lynn Kitchelow from 22nd, George Villegas from 23rd. Jose Malbran starts alongside him with Mike Galighty from 25th ahead of Joshua Mertz in 26th. Michaelette and Daniel B. Johnson occupy the 14th row of the grid. Top 30 rounded out by Nick Kern and Bob Beltrami.
Yeah, and then the last group of cars on our list, we've got Jared Gilbert and Mark Rediker with Matt Gelder and George Angus next. We've got Joseph Homan and Brett Trosen on the 18th row, and our last car of our 37 car field is Mark McFadden.
So, 37 cars, all vying to get a good handle on how these machines are going to handle, I guess, for them next week. All trying to win that diecast model of Dale Earnhardt's famed number 3 machine as well. And all out there just to have a bit of fun, really. It's nothing serious, this race. It's a big test. It'll be a very important test as well. But in sim racing too, I mean, we all started sim racing to have a bit of fun. And 75 lap dashes like this is where it's really at Daytona. What are your last thoughts before you get this on underway, Jay?
Yeah, just try and work out where you can position your car to find someone to work with. You don't necessarily want to be right at the front to start with as well. I reckon third or fourth group back, or third or fourth car back in your line is probably best spot to be. I'm always nervous about being at the front, but leading the start of a race at Daytona is a very, very cool experience, so enjoy this, Mike.
Field of the hands then of the number 2 of Mike Kelly. Green flag in the air, we're racing for the clash at Daytona. 75 laps begin now, and Michael Lane's going to jump down to that inside lane and get ahead of Clyde Belville there in 3rd place. And the top 4 or 5 cars all single file. First side-by-side action there. For about 7th place, Ernie Ludwig in the 36. Got Orders Pateklis alongside him in the 22. And up to the top line, the 36 goes. As they'll all close up now down this back straight away. And that draft is oh so powerful with these cars punching a big hole in the air for them to really suck up.
Yeah, there's a few cars that have decided to just get out of the line and drop back to the back of the field. So some of those drivers are probably happy or might not be too trusting in their outright pace, but that front of the field, that front 7, look very, very comfortable there. There's a lot of trust within those drivers, a few teammates in amongst it as well. And we got through the first lap clean, which is always a good sign. We had 3 cars starting in the pits, Michaelette, Scott Corbin and John King. Michaelette, unfortunately, who messaged me earlier saying somehow I've made it into top split. As he was organising the service, he has decided that he will not go any further. So the other 2 have continued on. And starting to get a little bit of a breakaway at that secondary pack has dropped the fairway back. They're around about 2.5 seconds back, so 27 cars in this lead group now.
Last time the line, it was the 45 of Eddie Hawkes that led them at the start-finish line. This time by, once again, it's super close. But again, Eddie Hawkes, that outside lane seems to be strongest coming out of turn number 4. Through the first half of the lap, that inside's really motoring. But that inside line's just got the number 2 of Mike Kelly and the 6-2 of Michael Lane pushing. There's a bit of a gap back to the 3rd car on line, the number 11 of where are we? Michael Hagstrom there.
Yeah, Hagstrom's just sort of happy hanging back, and you see that they're almost looking like we might get into 3 wide through turns 3 and 4, but looks like we've all settled back into line. So saying that right on the outside, that is the 45 Eddie Hawkes. No, he's dropped back now, and new leader once again, Mike Keeley. But that car on the outside looking to make it 3 wide. They're going to have to try and shuffle back into line. That's a 36 there. Vernie Lidwig. He's dropped out of that group of kinetic cars at the front. He's now happy to sit 3rd car back, which we sort of thought at the start might be the spot to be. Don't necessarily want to be right at the front. Now we've got kinetic on the outside trying to work together.
It wasn't the 11th, 3rd car in line as well. He's up on the top line about 5 cars back. It was Claude Belville that I was referring to, the 56. He's just not quite getting up to the back of the second car in line, the 62, as much as maybe they would want compared to the outside. The kinetic cars working well together, hooked up nicely, getting good runs around the top line of the track, and in fact down to the inside goes Eddie Hawks. So he takes the lead away then from the number 2, and oh, the number 2 gets a bit sideways. Good save though, goes down to the apron, regather that car. But that, for Mike Kelly, was a very hairy moment indeed.
Yeah, he did a great job to hold on to that. Just went all the way down there with that move down to the bottom line from Eddie Hawks, and Illis Pateklis now on the outside, kinetic 1-2. But I don't think this is where they want to be. They definitely do not want to be side by side. They'd much prefer to be pushing and working together. All they're doing now is leaving one of them open to get dropped in this group and shuffled down the line and then not be together for the next stage of the race.
Yeah, Pateklis has got a bit of a gap behind the 45 of Eddie Hawks that he can try and slot into, or he can try and get in front of him. He's going to have a big push here from the 68 of Brian McGreevy here to maybe get him out there, but at the moment, indeed, they are going to want to get themselves line astern, not side by side. Although what they can do being side by side is sort of just block the field. They can work together and just maintain a side by side status quo and stop anyone from getting alongside them. Unless, of course, McGreevy or Ludwig or the 11 of Hagstrop decide they want to take it 3 wide and get to the front.
What they could be doing as well is checking up that secondary field, as you said, or checking up the group to bring that secondary pack back up to the leaders. Unlikely that is what they're doing, but that is a possibility because, of course, their teammate is sitting right back. He was one of the drivers in the pits at the start of the race, that being John King. I'm sure he will be telling them to go on and try and win this race. He won't be wanting them to slow down and let him catch up because he is a long, long way back and he's in no man's land. Back about 24 seconds off the lead of the race, about half a lap back. Pateklis and Hawks look very, very comfortable. This is a surprising situation for them to be in, them being so comfortable being first and second, side by side as opposed to being nose to tail. It's not something I would be expecting from teammates to want to be side by side this early in the race anyway.
And there was a small opportunity there for Paterkless to get down to the inside. He might just about clear him on the entry to turn 3 if Hawks wants to lift off just a little bit. Doesn't seem so. I think they're content, oddly enough, going side by side. Now they've got another teammate, Daniel B. Johnson, in the number 20, about the 9th or so in this pack as well. He's on the outside line for now, giving a distant push to his teammate up front as they go through the start-finish line. Finally, Eddie Hawks is able to clear Paterkless, and as too is Ernie Ludwig behind him. Paterkless not being too aggressive right now. He could have got down to the inside. Thought probably not. It's still very early on, so there's no real issue to push there and get down there. You've got plenty of laps to go. Just bide your time. Make sure you're there at the end because, as we've seen with the number 2 of Mike Kelly, the smallest mistake will drop you back. He's currently 18th. He's only 1.6 off, but he's got a lot of cars to get back by to get back to the front.
This is a really weird spot for Pateklis to be in now. I mean, we saw how much pushing that they were doing, that being he and Eddie Hawks, and now they're no longer together. So it's a really tough situation. And as you said, there was a little bit of an opening there for Pateklis to drop down. Eddie Ludwig has made sure that he can't now. Michael Lane in the 62 also making sure that he can't get in there. So this has now made it really, really tough for Pateklis to try and get back into a good position. There's Michael Lane here we're on board with. He is making sure that there's no room for Pateklis to get back down to that bottom line. He could get hung out to dry here if these guys start to work together and open up some extra gaps for those guys behind. You can already see that outside line is starting to thin out a little bit. The inside is where everyone seems to want to be. How good is this? We've gone 10 laps. We're still green. That is much better than what we were originally expecting. I've just ruined it though, haven't I?
As is often the way, I think you may have just put the curse on it. We'll see how we go though. One thing that personally I can't stand with super speedway racing is when they get single file, they all run around the top. We see that in real life very often. They'll go about half the race distance doing that. Thankfully, in iRacing, I don't think we've really seen it too often, and we do tend to get very exciting races as a result of it. But you are right; they all are trying to get down to the inside line at the moment. It is the shortest way around the track, to be honest with you. You do need you need more cars up top to stay even with the inside, because it's a longer way around the track. You get a good run coming off the corners, but heading through the corners, you do drop about 1 or 2 car lengths.
Well, interestingly, just as we said that they're all going back, here comes Pateklis trying to squeeze into a gap that wasn't quite open. That was close. They've all gone back to the outside line again. You'll notice that the outside line went from about 4 cars back up to 6 or 7 again. So there's obviously a little bit of impatience happening with some of the drivers back in the field, and they're starting to work out if they can go to the outside. Some of these drivers are not looking too comfortable at this stage in that middle group there, are they? Like 4th or 5th cars back. There's starting to be a little bit of messy driving, not quite holding their line as much, and Pateklis is taking advantage from a very, very good push here from Brian McGreevy.
It was a very awkward check-up heading into turn 3 that time by a couple cars, 187 further back of Jose Malbron and Liam Sheen in the 63 almost made contact. It was very, very close, too close for comfort, I would say. And definitely highlighting some of those drivers further back, just struggling a little bit with that draft, just getting it right. If one car at the front checks up a bit, it creates a knock-on effect all the way down the train. There's 1 second covering the top 16 drivers. I tell you what, those 2 drivers that started in pit lane, Scott Corbin and John King, are 26 seconds off at the moment. I think they're actually gaining time on these 2. They're working together well and pushing each other around the track. Whereas these guys up front are really quite messy in their slipstreaming at the moment, as Ernie Ludwig almost got into the left rear of the... Ernie Ludwig almost had his left rear collected by Michael Lane in the 62. That is a big no-no. Pushing through the corners, unless it's the last couple of laps, is generally highly frowned upon, because it's so easy to hook that left rear of the car in front of you.
Yeah, it's definitely not well liked. Of course, being simulation racing, computerized racing, it's makes it a little bit more difficult as well. So, yeah, I mean, it's something I absolutely detested. I didn't see the point of it, because the risk versus reward, there's just no point. You don't gain a huge amount, but the risk that you run from doing it is so huge. So, yeah, I don't see the point of pushing, especially this early through the corners. Push on the straights as much as you want. Push me as hard as you can on the straight. Don't touch me, here we go.
And that is a crash down the back straight away. Multiple cars have gone around. No caution, for some reason, has flown. That is remarkable that we've stayed green. There's about 4 or 5 cars that have been involved in that one. And that started up in that leading pack of cars. How are we still green?
I have no idea either, but we'll continue on. We're still going at the front. We'll try and get a replay at some point. We've got a couple of drivers that have taken the opportunity to jump into the pits as well. I think we need a replay while we're still under green flag conditions. I didn't want to have to do green flag replays, but it looks like we're going to have...
No, I missed this when I was looking back on the pack. So let's have a look and see what's unfolded here. It's already going underway there. Coming down the back straight away. It's amazing how often the crashes happen in a straight line, not through the corners of Daytona. Who did it start with? It looks like the 187 got sent up to the outside lane at a very awkward angle. And that's what may have caused it. We'll get a good picture here from the top view. Jose Malbron, the 26, has come down and just tags the 187. And that sent them all around. And the field scattered. And what that's done too, not only the cars that were directly involved, but you know how I mentioned the top 16 was separated by a second? Well, the top 16 now separated by 12.3 seconds. 5 seconds to cover the top 9, so it's really broken up the field.
Yeah, it has that now into 2 distinct packs, and then there's the stragglers at the back now that are all going to have to try and work together to close themselves back up. So This really helps those kinetic cars that were in that lead group. The 2 cars there you can see of Eddie Hawks and Ulus Pateklis, the Kinetic Racing, the blue cars. They are in a big advantage now, but other drivers probably, I mean, they'll be upset that they've had a big wreck behind, but they'll be rather impressed and happy that we've stayed green for some reason. I don't know how we've stayed green either.
I don't know. If I was one of those cars that had to check up for that crash, I'd be a little bit annoyed not to have a caution and bring you back up to the lead pack. Although, dare I say it, that's not going to be the last issue we see today. And most of the cars, they kept rolling. They didn't lose too much momentum as they were spinning, and the ones that did ended up all the way down on the apron in the grass. So, oh, Greavy, careful there, hold your line. Almost came down right into the left door of Claude Belville there. Most of the cars that did stop were down on the apron in the infield, so that's why there was no caution for that one. Very fortunate indeed, as Hagstrom's got a good run at the back of this field, just closing his way up in, and the top 2 have sorted themselves out, and only Ludwig is doing a good job of pushing Eddie Hawks now along the back straight away. It's about half a car length to the 3rd place mate of Michael Lane, and it's side by side between Belville and Pateklis, side by side between Hagstrom, McGreevy, Liam Sheen. Looks like his teammates as well with McGreevy, just pushing him on the top side. But that inside's definitely working best at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the smaller the pack, the more likely the inside line is to work. So it's a big advantage for this pack now to jump into single file and break away as much as they can. I think that'd be the strategy for me, is to now push as far away as you can, jump into one line, and absolutely break the hearts of that secondary group, which is this group here. They're now 9 seconds back from the lead of the race. So this secondary group, led by our pole sitter, Mike Keeley, who almost had one of the biggest crashes we'll see this race. He was so lucky to end up still in this race and to still find himself in 9th position. I think he'd be pretty happy.
It did a good job of holding onto that car. Well, it looks like we might be headed towards green flag pit stops, lap 21. And if I recall correctly, should be somewhere around 10 laps or so away from seeing drivers come down into pit lane. And that is an art in itself at Daytona. You're coming down from 200 miles an hour, 300 kilometers an hour, getting it down to the pit lane speed, which is an absolute walking pace if ever I've seen one, after roaring around this track at maximum speed for an entire stint. And you've got to do it with a pack of cars around you. Oh, Ernie Ludwig, and there goes the 62 as well. Can he save it? He's on the apron, sliding around the corner. Another fantastic save here at Daytona. And fantastic heads-up driving from Hagstrom, from Belville, to not get into the back of him, as he was struggling to hold on to that. And that all started from the 36, Ernie Ludwig, just getting a bit sideways, or getting down onto the apron through the corner, and it caused him to check up, and that was very close to being a caution.
That was a huge save once again, and just a little bit of impatience starting to kick in from these drivers. It's at the point now where you're starting to try and get into your rhythm, and from that you can sometimes start to lapse your concentration a bit. You start to not concentrate quite as hard as you were earlier on in the race. You're starting to think, okay, we're 20 laps in, this is feeling really good, I'm feeling confident, and that moment there is where your concentration lapses, and that's where mistakes start to really kick in. So these drivers now have to be very careful. This front group now only 5 cars strong. These guys have to really be careful to not cause a big incident, because if one gets taken out, all 5 are gone, because they will not have as much draft. That next pack will close up very quickly.
Yeah, that next pack, there's a couple of cars now, Hagstrom, Belville, and Michael Lane running around 6th and 7th. And in fact, they've picked up a laps car, Brett Trozen, so he's just in there too. Michael Lane has dropped a fair bit of time, actually. Then there's a decent pack of cars for about 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. It starts with the 9th place man, Brendan Johnson, who's just come down to pit lane, actually. There's about 5 or 6 cars in this one, and they're trying to get themselves all single file. so they can start chasing them down. They're led by George Odenos Villegas there, who doesn't look like he wants to be leading. Of course, if you are the car punching the hole in the air, you're using up more fuel, and it'll hurt your fuel economy as the 187 tried to get to that top line as well. Gets an awkward push there. These guys just need to settle themselves out. They're not racing for a win, they're racing for a top 10 spot. Not 10 seconds off the lead of the race too. And Jose Malbran almost getting sent sideways for not the first time in this one. In fact, how is he there? So he's a lap down in 34th place at the moment. Just being a nuisance to the guys on the lead lap still. And George Odenos Villegas just content, it looks like, to sit in behind him, is on the inside of them both is Rob Goll, who's not getting too much in the way of a decent push from 44 of Kitchen Low or Mike Kelly, in fact, behind him.
I just saw a bit of a shuffle of position at the front there too. Pateklis has dropped back to the bottom line, and Brian McGreevy and Liam Sheen almost made contact. They've now picked up another car at the back there too, so that lead group of 5 is now a lead group of 6. Claude Beval and Michael Lane are dropping back into this pack, and as you said, Rob Gall wasn't getting too much help, but just ahead you've got Villegas and a lap car there as well, giving a little bit of a push too. That is the lead lap down car of Michael Johnson, I believe. No, sorry, Brett Trozen. So he is... No, it's another car altogether. It's a car that's 2 laps down, so I'm wrong altogether. But this secondary pack, as you said, they all need to work together. They need to race smart here. They're working together for a top 10. They're not racing for the win, so they all need to get in a single file and work as a group. If they keep fighting for position, they're not going to catch up to that lead group at all. And all it's going to do is drop them back further, leave them more susceptible to the next group behind, which looks to be working together a lot better.
Yeah, that about a 10-car pack from about 19th or 16th back. Matt Gelder at the front of that one on the 69 machine. Just in front of Adam Fasaponte, Alexander Wiggett's in there too. Then they're all single file, about 10 of them, going all the way back to about 26th place. George Angus, in fact, even further back, Steve Driscoll, a lapped car there in 35th too. Just hanging on to the back of these guys and definitely working together a bit better than those guys. What lap times are these guys doing? 46 flat for Matt Gelder last time by. Up in front of them, that pack of cars. I tell you what, they're a lot quicker actually. 45.4, so 0.6 of a second quicker. In the lead group, 45.6, 45.7, 45.8. So it is that second pack that's heading fastest at the moment.
Yeah, and those guys that are in no man's land that were in that lead group before we had that huge, bizarre incident. Michael Lane, as we saw, was pushing McGreevy not that long ago. These guys are a second off that lead group, so they're going to get closed up by this angry pack, that secondary pack that we were talking about, who are the fastest group of cars out on track at the moment. In not long at all, I'm going to say another 3 laps, and that'll be an even bigger pack. Instead of being a pack of 9, it'll become a pack of 11. And Lane and Beval probably thinking, well, hurry up, guys, and get to us so that we can start all working together a bit smarter.
Indeed, and that second pack's just gone 2 by 2 once again through the tri-oval. Kitchen Low in the 44, and just sat back and watching as in front of him Robert Jose Malbran and George Villegas just moving around a lot at the moment, switching up between the inside and the outside quite a bit, I would say, and probably a bit more than they probably need to at the moment. They need to really just stick to a line and stay there, because they're not going to get good help from behind. They're not going to go particularly fast if they keep doing it. As a result of that, Daniel Johnson, I said he pitted. He must have just dropped to the back of this pack of cars. So he is still there. He's got his teammate behind him in the number 12 of, or so the 72 of Gerard Gilbert. And they're just staying on that outside lane, just biding their time. There's a big mix of drivers right now, Jay, isn't there, between drivers that want to be at the front, ones that want to be at the back, and ones that are just happy riding around, biding their time, just wherever they are.
I think it's very, very evident the experience level of the drivers, just from watching some of these packs and who's doing what. You see drivers that are just happy and confident sitting their third, fourth car back and just watching what's going on. They're the drivers that have done this time and time and time again. This is not their first race at Daytona. Some of these guys that are just wanting to push and moving around, those are the guys that you can tell haven't raced a huge amount in these sort of events, and it's never a good sign when you see that, because what it leads to is big mistakes, which then lead to the big one, which we will no doubt see at some point. And avoiding the big one is something that those guys that are happy and confident just to sit back and watch the other guys fight hard, they don't mind. They're happy to watch those guys fight, and they're probably happy to be the third car back in that situation because it gives them time to react, and if it does happen right in front of them, it usually will go beside them as opposed to straight through them. So someone like Rob Gall, sitting in a very, very good spot in that 31 car with those 2 cars ahead all over the circuit. You can see he's actually dropped back a little bit further, just going, hang on boys, I can see what you two are up to. You guys are fighting a little bit too hard. I'm going to sit back a little bit and just let you guys work your way forward a bit more. They are catching that lead group though. Last lap by, they were about 4/10 quicker, so this group is catching. Interesting to note though that they've all gone back to single file, and that definitely helps in a smaller group of cars as they now get 2 extra helpers.
Well, that lead group, right as I mentioned it, they drop off. Liam Sheen was giving a huge push to
Green flag
pit
stops.
Here we go. So he was giving a big push to McGreevy. They'd almost cleared Ludwig, Hawks, and Pateklis, the cars on the inside. Brett Tozen had an interesting penalty there. So 3 cars dive down from the lead group. 3 cars stay out. What about the second group of cars just making the way around? Looks like most of them are going to stay out as well. So here we go. I was going to mention that the pit stop phase was going to open soon as well. So McGreevy, Sheed, and Hagstrom will want to come down fairly quickly because as a 3-car train, they're going to lose a lot of time to that massive train of 10 or so cars behind them. And
I was going to say they probably had to check up a tiny little bit too, which lost them a bit of time when we saw Ludwig, Hawks, and Pateklis all come in. So those 3 out, about 14-second pit stops, about what we would expect to see for 4 tyres and a full tank of fuel. Who's coming in from that next group? Those lead 3 are in, but that next group of cars are all staying out even longer. Now these guys have all been back in the pack the whole way through. The only car that's been leading for a big chunk of time is that lead car, the 101.
And he's lap down. So he's got fuel in the car anyway.
Yeah, the 101's on the lead lap. It's the car behind the 187 that is a lap down. But the likes of Rob Gall, Mike Keeley, they've been back in the pack a little bit longer, or for most of the race. So they will now have an extra lap of fuel. They'll come out, probably be happy to draft again. That gives them an extra lap when we have to do a splash and dash. If we stay green, I didn't think we'd have any chance of staying green, but the way that this race is unfolding, there is a chance that we will stay green. They're all going to dive in right now. No, continuing on. Interesting. This is not what I was expecting at this point of the race.
It is playing out very intriguingly indeed. And just trying to find McGreevy, not Sheen. Those drivers that pitted from the top positions a few laps ago. Liam Sheen's all by himself on track. He is in front of Ludwig, Pateklis, and Eddie Hawks, who have formed up quite nicely now. When I saw them coming out of pit lane, they were quite a distance apart. There's a car that's just spun down in pit lane. That's Andrew Waring, the 336, having a bit of a hard time getting his pit stop done.
Yeah, that lead.
Hagstrom's not particularly getting any help from McGreevy either. They're a long way in front of Sheen. Or a long way behind. They're a long way behind Sheen. So that Hawks, Pateklis,
And
Ludwig group that pitted first, definitely the benefactors from that one.
And they've actually gained an extra car as well, that being Liam Sheen. So they've now got 3 in that lead group. So the other drivers that were in that original lead group have dropped back a little bit. There they are there, that being Hagstrom and McGreevy. So, yeah, Rob Gall now leading. As we said, you'll probably be able to get some extra laps just based on how much fuel he was able to save. His only issue is out in no man's land because there is no one else around him at this stage. He'll come in now. Wayne Hutchison also coming in too. So, almost full field has pitted. issues for the 101 car, which we saw in the lead of that last group. He's driven straight through the pit lane and is going to have to come back down again. So he is struggling around the bottom of the circuit, may be very, very low on fuel, may not make it in.
I think at this point he'll be fine. He's still doing about 200 kilometers an hour and he's making it down to the pit lane now, but that will pretty much ruin his race, barring a caution and a lucky dog. He'll just get that one down into the pits. It'll be slow, but it'll get there. As the field has really been shuffled by this pit stop phase. Ludwig is your provisional race leader now. He's 5th in on the leaderboard. 4 cars yet to make the pit stop. Trying to find that second back cars. Hagstrom and McGreevy are working together in a duo effort. Just a little ways off the lead of the race. Mark Kelly's all by himself in front of Gerard Gilbert, Brett Trezin, Josie Malbred and Daniel Johnson there in 4s in the 4-car train. And there's no big trains anymore. They've all been split up.
Yeah, they're all either 2 or 4-car trains. I think the biggest group is a 7-car train. That's the one involving, or this group here, which has got Marcus Tracy, Mark McFadden, and Ian Kirkholchley. Who else is in there? Beltrami. Actually, there's only 5 cars in that group. They'll catch up and get on the back of Rob Gall very, very quickly because he's in no man's land. But the lead is getting very, very interesting because those leaders have shuffled their positions a little bit. Also confirming for those out there wondering, 100% can guarantee that cautions are turned on. So that earlier incident that we saw, we're as surprised as anyone else that there was no caution. Other splits have had cautions in their races, so we can confirm that cautions are 100% on and could happen, should happen, if we have a major incident. Of course, as we said too, Green-white-checkers are also on for this race. And we're past halfway. 38 complete, 37 to go.
So Ludwig is looking strong at the moment. These top 4 are working together well. Ludwig, Tekla, Sheen and Eddie Hawks. They've got a big gap to the cars behind. They're now leading the race outright by 6.3 seconds to Hackshaw and McGreevy. It's 15 seconds back to Kelly, Gilbert, Hutchison, 20 seconds back to Gelder, Weggert, and that's probably the biggest pack. Gelder, Wegger, Goligati, Golightly, Brian Barnes, about a second off there, Rob Gall, and Kinchlow. That should close up very quickly into about a 7 or 8 car field, or pack, I should say. That might allow them to make some inroads, as Ernie Ludwig came under threat up front from Pateklis, who's trying the outside, but with only 5 cars up there, he's got no one to help him. And he's flying a solo flag out there right now.
Yeah, surprised that he's gone out there other than to try and tuck in behind Eddie Hawks. But the issue they've got John King in there too, so in that number 6 car. So that's another kinetic car in there to help. So we've got a car stopped on the back straight. That is the car of Andrew Waring. He has decided to park it. And Michael Hagstrom as well has hit the wall. He's slow out on the circuit. And he was, of course, one of the guys in that lead pack to start with. He's dropped a long way back in the number 11, and he is in a little bit of hurt.
Yeah, he's just coming out of pit lane now. Just found him on track, and he has lost a lot of time just trying to find out if there's any damage on that machine.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of damage. So I think he's actually
right-hand
facing the wrong way, yeah.
So let's get a replay up and see what has unfolded for the 11 in what is another incident without a caution. And that
solo spin
was a spin all by himself. And again, he just got tied, it seems, off the exit of the corner.
Oh no.
There was a lapped car involved, and the 68 got a piece of it as well. And how is that one not a caution? He was basically stopped on the track. And iRacing doing everything it can to avoid throwing that yellow flag, as that was worrying the lapped car involved. The 68 of McGreevy got a big piece of it. It was losing a fair bit of time now. It's 14 seconds off the top 4, who are so comfortable at the moment. They've got a couple lap cars behind him. but no real issues for them. If they'll find it hard to ruin this lead without a caution. And then it's that 5 or 6 car train further back with a few laps cars in there as well. Mike Kelly, who had that big moment from the lead pack earlier, is leading that second train now.
Yeah, he is. So he's back in 5th position.
Oh, there's an incident. That's 4 cars around. There's the caution we were waiting for. Wade Hutchinson, Gerard Gilbert, and Daniel B. Johnson all go around. And a big crash as well as they all check up behind him. Brian Barnes goes for a trip through the infield. Lynn Kitchlow is going to make his way through. Mark Faden was facing the wrong way. Rob Gall got a piece of it as well, I think. And that big train of cars, as they came through, didn't quite catch how it started, but saw them enter the top of my screen, all sorts of sideways. And we'll get a replay up and see what has unfolded here. This is the first incident, trying to split the middle. Just got a bit sideways, trying to go around McGreevy, and the 78, big contact, 72 in fact, Gerard Gilbert. And then, it was McGreevy sideways in the middle of the track, stranded, was collected. They couldn't check up or get around him quick enough. Trying to get the car slowed down from 300 kilometers an hour is harder than it seems. If you just slam on that brake, you'll either get run over or brake sideways. And unfortunately, that's ruined a fair few number of drivers' races out there. What it will do is it will bunch up the pack, allow John King to get back in the lead that with the Lucky Dog system. And I think we'll see the entire field come down and put some more fuel in that car, and that will allow them to go to the end.
Yeah, that's right. That's the big thing, is now that they can get home from here to the end of the race. So, see a few drivers, actually almost all teammates that got involved together there. That's the unfortunate part of that. Of course, we saw the first car involved there, McGreevy, facing the wrong way, and then almost all of his Orthodox teammates have come through in that secondary pack and made contact with him. It's really unfortunate, but sometimes that happens, and Daytona is a wild beast. We talk about that when we watch races at Mount Panorama Bathurst, how much of a wild beast she is. In Daytona, she doesn't take any prisoners either. She doesn't care who's out in front. She'll take anyone she likes for a ride. So unfortunate for the team there at Orthodox, but them's the breaks at Daytona are much better to happen this weekend than next weekend. So I'm sure they're not overly upset that it's happened this weekend when they compare to what could happen next weekend.
Well, you're talking about Daytona there, Jay. I think your wife might be getting a bit jealous if she's watching this one.
No, she's asleep. It's okay. I'm safe.
Yeah, we should all be asleep right now. Ernie Ludwig has come down. Liam Sheen has had a blistering pit stop and has jumped Ludwig. Mike Kelly, in fact, McGreevy as well, have all jumped Ludwig and co from that lead pack. So that's an interesting one. The rest of the field as well did pit. Only a few cars a lap down decided to stay out. So Mike Kelly finds his way back to the front, and a bit of a shake-up with a fair few of the lead lap cars there.
Well, interesting, just looking at the pit stop times, Mike Kelly did not take 4 tyres, unlike Liam Sheen, Ernie Ludwig, Eddie Hawkes, Willis Pateklis. So those guys have all taken 4 tyres. Kelly and Hutchison, the 2 drivers, did not take 4 tyres there.
And just waiting to see how the timing screens recycle around when they get across the start-finish line. The one annoying thing at Daytona is the cautions. When you get them, and you get them so often, it's a 2-mile racetrack, and the pace car is only doing 128 kilometers an hour, whatever that may be in miles. It's not particularly fast. It's only just faster than the pit lane speed limit. It takes a while to get it all sorted out and get them back green, doesn't it, Joe? Yeah,
it does, and we'll still be a couple of laps away from going back under green. So lap down cars now come into the pits, and then we'll get wave bys next lap, and then Mike Kelly will lead the field away. We've only got 2 wave bys to get done, but yeah, I'm surprised that a lot of the group have taken 4 tyres. I mean, I'm not 100% sure because I haven't done any laps on the new tyre. So I'm not sure how much the wear is in those new tyres, but I know from previous experience that you don't necessarily would need to take 4 tyres when you've only taken 4 tyres 8 laps earlier. It seems like a surprise that how many drivers have taken all 4 for this race in that pit stop after so few laps of green flag running in that secondary phase after that first round of pit stops. I'm a little bit surprised, but well done to those guys that are going to take the risk. I'm not sure if it's going to pay off, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, well, fingers crossed we stay green now to the end, because they are all fueled up to get it home from here. And if we do stay green, we're in for a grandstand finish where anyone could win this race. I think, though, with the field bunched up like this, I can't see it staying green all the way to the end. This is where the race could get very, very messy.
Could be a long old slog to the end from here. There's the field has shaken out, and Mike Kelly is your race leader from Liam Sheen. Ludwig's gone back to 3rd. Where's Hutchison come from? He's now up in 4th.
Yeah, same situation. Only took 2 tyres.
I swear I recall saying he was spinning in that crash that brought out the caution. Eddie Hawks is 5th. Patekla 6th. Then Gelder is up into 7th. Or Gelder from 7th is started 33rd in this one. So he's made steady progress. Tracy's up into 8th. John King's 9th. And in fact, John King's just come down into pit lane, it seems like. Or he's dropped a long way, actually.
Yeah, he was a lucky dog, so he couldn't pit with the other drivers, so he had to get the wave by and then pitted with the lap down cars. So back in 22nd, we have 25 cars still on the lead lap out of our 37 starters. 34 runners still in this race. And you probably could say that anyone in that top 25 could win this race from here. It's incredible how many drivers we've still got going. And fingers crossed we stay green to the end, because if we do, this is going to be an epic, epic run to the end.
And a lot of drivers too that can get back on the lead lap with a few more cautions. Michael Hackshom's got his car repaired. Jose Melbourne's car looks pretty clean as well. Joseph Homan's looking pretty nice and schmick in that livery. A lot of drivers are 1 lap down with no real damage left on their cars, hoping for a lot more cautions to come out, and they can get the lucky dog. The lights are out on the pace car, so we are going to get a restart this time by as the 63 want to get back alongside Liam Sheen. It'll be in the hands of Liam
Mike Kelly, you meaning?
All sorts of confused. Liam Sheen will want to get back alongside Mike Kelly.
Yeah.
It'll be in the hands of him for this restart. That pace car's going to get down out of the way and will unleash 30-odd cars back around this 2.5 mile racetrack at full throttle as Mike Kelly pins it, and we get back underway. And a very good restart from Ernie Ludwig is going to give a big push to the back of Mike Kelly. Liam Sheen's got no one helping him. Wayne Hutchinson's not been able to get up to his rear bumper. And Sheen's going to lose a fair bit of time here as the number 22 gets up to Hutchinson. And Pateklis trying to give him a hurry up. As up to the outside line goes the 69er, Matt Gelder. He's going to go and give some help to Liam Sheen as Pateklis left Hutchinson, goes down to the inside. And they all try to find their teammates and find their drafting companions and get back into the rhythm, get back up to top speed, which they'll do just about now.
Yeah, fairly good restart too. The pack hasn't splintered as much as they sometimes can in these restarts. Looks like there was a little bit of an issue back in the field because there's a few cars that have had to come into pit lane. But that outside line doesn't look like it's got the momentum I thought it may have had at the start of this little stage of the race, but it could come back to these drivers in the next few moments. And you can see all of these drivers that worked together earlier in the race are now back working together. I must say, Ernie Ludwig has spent more time pushing than being anywhere else in this race. He's been just happy and content being second in that inside line pretty much all race. The only time he's not been in that spot was when he led after the pit stops.
Well, a lot of drivers are suited to pushing. They're able to hold their line very well and line up the car perfectly to give fantastic pushes. Seems like Ludwig's perfectly content doing that. Mike Kelly is going to want to stop offering up that inside line though, because it'll make it just a bit harder for Ludwig to get that car lined up, as that's a good push through 1 and 2. He might just about clear the 63 And when he does, I wonder if he'll want to get to the outside and try and go around Mike Kelly. Ludwig Scott, Liam Sheen was outside, Eddie Hawks behind him, Teclis behind Hawks as well, as Gelder's just getting a little bit squirrely, trying to push Sheen all by himself on that outside line.
One car to watch in this little group is the number 83 of Marcus Tracy. He is out of sequence, did not pit under the caution. That's why he's jumped up into 7th position. Oh, don't drop down there, Pateklis.
Pateklis was hit there by this swerving Matt Gelder machine, who's struggling to hold that line a bit at the moment in the wake of Liam Sheen's machine. A good save there, Pateklis. It's checked up a lot of cars once again. And once more, a big slide has separated the front pack from the second pack by a decent margin.
Yeah, and you can see how much more tightly packed this lead group is. We're now into the final third of the race. This is where the gloves start to come off, the strategy starts to come into play. And these drivers start to fight for these positions. This is getting messy.
Gelder.
And you can see this lead group now. There's something about to happen. We've talked about this so many times here on our broadcasts. The amount of races that we broadcast, you can anticipate and know when something is going to happen. This bit of commotion going on in this lead group has A, brought the secondary pack back to them, and B, looks like something major is about to happen.
It's a big pack. It's about 15 cars. It's only growing stronger as they head down the back straight away. It's tightly packed 2x2 at the front. Bob drafting. Both drivers leading the inside and the outside, getting a fantastic push. Kelly getting a big push from Ludwig. Sheen, a big push from Gelder, who seems to have just about sorted out how to hold a line in that machine. No, he hasn't. He's still moving all over the track, and I think the issue might arise in that 69 machine if he doesn't get himself sorted out quickly, because I've got to say, and I hate to be that guy, he needs to get that machine handling right, and he needs to sort himself out behind the wheel, because he's not doing a fantastic job of it at the moment. He's struggling for whatever reason. Maybe he's got a bit of damage to that machine. Maybe there's something else going on, but he's definitely not holding a line as well as he could be. He's already put a big moment on Pateklis' hands that he saved and got himself back to the front. How close did Ludwig get to the 63 is Sheen there? How close is he going to get again? They're almost rubbing. They are making contact through the corners, and Liam Sheen is putting the huge side draft on this inside line, and it's going to come unstuck surely very soon. This is a frantic pack at the front. There's still just over 20 laps to go on this one. It's not even the closing stages of this race, but this could seriously thin out the field if they crash on the front couple of spots. Mike Kelly's the only one looking comfortable right now. He's got no one to his outside. Liam Sheen's only just about got his car up there as, again, he gets real close to that inside, trying to side draft. It doesn't really work that often in iRacing, but everyone still loves to try it.
Interesting there about Matt Gelder. He's just going to lose another spot here. I'm wondering if his car is not set up well for that side draft and getting a lot of aero push when there's a car very, very close on the side. So something that they'll have to work on for the race coming up next week in the Orthodox crew. Oh, yeah, there's something major, something huge is going to happen. 22 cars separated by 1.5 seconds is a recipe for disaster. When you've got cars, not just one, there's 3 or 4 cars that are looking a little bit unsettled in this lead group. You know that something big's going to happen, as we now start to see people thinking about making it 3 wide. Once we get to 3 wide, you cannot make these deviations like that, because there is no room to make it 3 wide with movement around like that.
And that's not to say 3 wide can't work. It has worked in the past, and it's worked very well. Oh, more contact! Ludwig's going to hold on to it. Gelder's trying to feed the beneficiary in that, not going to be able to do it. Liam Sheen and Ernie Ludwig can count their lucky stars there. We've seen 3 wide work well in the past for a number of laps on end for massive green flag runs, but the way these cars moving about in tonight's race, I don't think it'll work particularly well today, as somehow they continue to go, and somehow Liam Sheen continues to find himself at the front of that outside line. Gelder still there in the second machine on the outside, as that inside gets a big push as Pateklis gave a big hurry up there to Ernie Ludwig, which in turn pushed along Mike Kelly, as the 45 of Eddie Hawks decides he wants the inside line. And the inside is a bit of a conservative line because if you're down there, it's easier to miss a big crash because you can dive down to the apron. If you're on the outside, there's nowhere to go. The 101 machine scraping the wall as he gets laps. And will do his best to stay out of the way. Does stay out of the way quite nicely in the end. As I don't know what to say other than I don't know how they're still green because this pack is not comfortable at all.
No, it's not. And I must say that Ernie Ludwig's got himself in the perfect position here because if anything happens ahead, well, he's got a clear track ahead, but the more likelihood is that it's going to happen behind. The more that he pushes Mike Kelly away, the more likely it is that someone in that next group of cars from like Matt Gelder back will get involved in something as they try to catch up and keep up. So yeah, this is going to get real messy. 17 laps to go. Insane that Ernie Ludwig's the one that has a little bit of a moment there. Tiny little bit of contact. Good driving there from Liam Sheen to hold on. But this pack is now starting to show a little bit of cracking, a little bit of kinks within the armour of these front guys. I'm glad I'm not out there because this is the sort of racing that absolutely makes you drenched in sweat, nervous, and you do not want to be that one that is involved in the big one. Even worse, the one that involves the big one that you have caused.
Marcus Tracy's new driver in this front pack and the number
83.
Oh! 83 machine as there's more contact being made. I can't find him on the leaderboard. Where is he? Oh, I'm looking at the last half of the field. That's probably why. He's a new person at the front. He's made his way up there quite nicely. The 62's found his way back up there as well. The 62 being the Michael Lane machine. As Ludwig has gone to the outside now. Doesn't want to be pushing anymore. Maybe doesn't want to be alongside Liam Sheen anymore. But Pateklis thought about it. Will he? Yes, he will go to the outside. Mike Kelly's going to throw the block. Hey. And he goes back down to the inside. Michael Tracy finds himself now sat in third position. As I just heard the comms light up in game, as in sim, as a couple of people getting a little bit unhappy out there as Eddie Hawks goes to the outside too. Suddenly Liam Sheen finds himself buried in this front pack of drivers. Matt Gelder's found himself down on the inside line. And Michael Lane, pretty much the only driver still on the same position he was about a lap ago, leading the inside line.
Yeah, interesting that move has happened there with those guys going to the outside. Now, I'm talking about there with Marcus Tracy. Tracy needs a couple of cautions to make it home. Otherwise, he'll have to make a green flag stop. So he's taken the risk. And I must say, earlier you would think it's an educated and a smart risk to not make that second pit stop. Only driver in the field to have made one stop in this race. So he pitted with those green flag stops now 24 laps ago. Got 15 to go. Maths doesn't quite add up there to getting 37 laps. It's going to fall about 2 laps short, especially if you have green-white checker, which there is a huge possibility of happening here. So Marcus Tracy definitely needs a caution to help him out. But this lead group, this is looking really spicy and really interesting. Can't wait to see how this plays out. I cannot believe, though, that we've stayed green when considering 12 laps ago we said this is messy and we can see a caution coming. We've stayed green that entire time. Pateklis now leads the race. Here we go.
To the outside. Thinks better of it. There's a new driver from the top 10 as well, and Nick Kuhn, who's found his way up there through all this moving and dicing. Ludwig for the wise decision, sort of back in behind Pateklis. Tracy's trying to force the issue on the inside, trying to get back in line with Michael Lane. Suddenly the top 25 are all 2x2 perfectly formed up as the 62 gets a bit squirrely further back. That's Michael Lane. It was Mike Kelly at the front, sideways, and a big crash, and there they go. That's the big one at Daytona. Over a dozen cars involved in that one. Coming off the exit of turn 4. And that is a big crash. And it was going to come unstuck at some point. There was no way they were going to stay green. And in the end, that was probably bigger than we were expecting.
That was a huge one, not just the big one, that was huge.
Oh, Liam Sheen's got around under caution.
Oh,
How's he
no.
done that? There was contact with the 36 of Ludwig. And I would love to say that was just a coming together of some sorts. I'll have to take a look at that one, as you just saw the replay on screen. And can't really blame anyone for that one. It's just, well, that's just racing at Daytona, isn't it?
Yep, so
Sometimes
Nick
he
Kuhn.
comes unstuck. Yeah, Nick Kuhn, who I just said, new face in the top 10.
Oh, the 69 car dropped below the apron, yeah.
Got into the back of Matt Gelder, who did cause the big one in the end. And, well, as soon as one car goes around, nothing anyone can do. Let's watch Liam Sheen here. Watch for Ernie Ludwig to come from behind him in a second. And, so Liam Sheen goes by them. Look at Ludwig here.
I don't know if you could blame Ludwig there. That's more on Liam Sheen, I think, for dropping down a little bit too low. Strange incident either way, but who will come into
It did look like
pits?
there was a bit of a body language conversation, a bit of a...
How's your father?
Yeah. There was a conversation being exchanged there without any words being said. I don't think it was a friendly one. If that, there was definitely both of them moving around a little bit in close proximity in the end. Probably not what either of them wanted to happen. Liam Sheen will have to try and get that car ahead pretty quickly, as we just take stock now of what's happened to this field. So Mike Kelly leads. Brett Trosen gets the lucky dog. Marcus Tracy finds himself in second. Still hasn't pitted, interestingly. Urdas Pateklis is third. Rob Goll in fourth. Ernie Ludwig fifth. Eddie Hawks is sixth. Facet Ponte is a lap down, as is Hagstrom, as is Angus, as is Ems, and Gilbert. Belleville in 15th is on the lead lap. A few drivers pitted, it looks like. And we'll have to wait another lap to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, a few drivers in for damage, other than the ones that were involved in that incident. So Liam Sheen, as we said, did hit the wall there pretty hard. Wayne Hutchison also. But yeah, a lot of drivers were involved in that big one. What this does, it does help Marcus Tracy. As we said, he does need cautions to make sure that he can save enough fuel. This helps him now. He probably needs one more to make it home, with still 11 laps of racing left after we cross the line here. That will mean that he'll do 39 laps to a stint. We saw 32 laps green flag running. He's done a couple of laps under caution under that first one, another couple now. A few drivers fake the pit entry. A few drivers actually look like they might do it. It's a strange time to come in, and when they already had an opportunity to come in, well, they are lapped down. So I'll take that back.
Interesting that Tracy hasn't decided to pit here. He
He's obviously confident in his fuel saving,
Yeah.
considering he's been in the draft the entire time. Yeah, strange. So he's done 28 laps to a tank at the moment.
I think he should make it, to be honest with you. If you get a green-white-checkered, it'll be interesting, but I think he'll be comfortable enough to make it. Just trying to work out how many cars are left without at the front. McGreevy in 8th looks pretty clean. Mart, Schleimer. There's a fair few cars still left that could win this
Yeah,
race.
15 odd, isn't there? 10, 15?
Yeah. Yeah, about 15 cars.
Yeah.
Still looking relatively clean. In fact, Nick Kuhn has got his spare car out as well, because his car is looking brand new again. And, of course, that spare car, Fast Spare, is helping out a lot of drivers in staying involved in today's race, because they are able to get that damage repaired, or, well, get rid of the damage they had, and just head back out there and have another crack.
Just want to confirm as well that Ernie Ludwig is part of the Kinetic crew. I was 90% sure that he was in the 36 car. I didn't want to say that he is part of that crew because make a fool of myself if I was wrong, but yeah, can confirm that he is part of the Kinetic team. So despite him being in a red car, he's part of that blue and black crew. So that's why we've seen him work so hard with Pateklis and Hawks in this race, because he is part of that team. So even if he wasn't, he was still doing a good job in helping them, and it sort of made it a little bit more obvious. We'll get a few of these lap cars out of the way, and we'll get ready to go green next time by. I would think that the lights will go out on the pace car right now.
So, I'm going to offer up this question to you, Jay. Give me your best answer. Who's going to win this race? Who's your pick from here on out? We've just got 10 laps to go when we restart.
I'm not going to pick anyone because whoever I pick will end up in the wall. That is how it works when I pick someone to win the race. But I think we will have another caution, and I think we'll have a green-white-checker finish. That's my thinking.
Well, if there's one thing I know, it's your guesses are generally wrong. So we'll probably stay green.
You are correct on that one.
We'll probably stay green. Of course, next week is the big one, the Daytona 500. 200 laps, a fair bit more than 75. We will get long green flag runs in that one. We'll get big fields in the American region on GSRC, big fields in the European region on Race Spot, and we should get a big field too in the international region as we come back with SimSpeed TV. Of course, all three are on the iRacing Esports network. SimSpeed TV will have Reese Gardner back in the booth for that one.
Yeah, you won't have to put up with my voice for the whole one as well.
Yeah.
Never a good sign if I have to commentate a long race.
Unfortunately, you'll start to put up with me, but it is what it is. We'll have Reese back, and he'll bring some professionalism back into the comments box here on SimSpeed TV as we get ready to go back underway here at Daytona. The Clash at Daytona, it's in the closing stages now. It's in the hands of Mike Kelly once more. This is going to be wild as he pins the throttle, gets us back underway, and gets almost too good of a restart. He's going to have to fend off Tracy here. Tries to cover the outside. Thinks about covering the inside instead. The 22 of Pateklis will give him a big push, and Tracy's going to have to wait someone to get up onto his back bumper as Rob Gall is going backwards on the inside line, interestingly. Ludwig trying to push him along. Tracy dives down to the inside line, and suddenly it's Eddie Hawke sitting the outside, getting a push from the 68 of Brian McGreevy, as Ludwig is now about 5 cars back on the inside. Joshua Mertz, haven't seen him all race long. He started 26. He's now up there in 9th place as Ludwig goes to the outside, and he's going to push his teammate Eddie Hawkes. Top 2 on the outside of Kinetic, and the 22 of Pateklis. Wonder if he'll dive up there too. He's currently second in line. If he does, I dare say you'll see Mike Kelly getting dropped from the lead of the race. But it seems like he's not going to, because what a run that Ludwig gave to the 45 there of Eddie Hawkes.
Yeah, interesting. Well, no real surprise for me to see Marcus Tracy drop back to the inside. Of course, he's got a teammate just behind there in the number 31 of Rob Gall. But Kelly, Hawkes. Oh, how's that from Eddie Hawkes? Comes across, chops the nose off Mike Kelly. Good move. And Eddie Hawkes now leads this race. Now Ernie Ludwig is the one that needs to try and get up there, but he's got no teammates on the outside to help him back through.
Oh,
Mike Kelly's going to come back around the outside.
We're going to see a fair bit of this over the next few laps as Tracy gets a big shove to the back of Pateklis through the tri-oval. And Ludwig's getting a bit sideways up top as well. They're on old tyres at this point. They're trying to get them back up to temp. They're just moving around a little bit. So it's Eddie Hawkes that leads. Pateklis giving him the push. How long do the Kinetic cars work together? Do they work together right until that checkered flag, or is it every man for himself? Once the white flag flies, or maybe even earlier, they're bumper to bumper, the top 3. You've got to be careful here, Tracy. The push you give to Pateklis could send Hawkes around. He backs off for the corner. And Rob Gall in 4th place on the inside line is looking at a pretty strong position too, as now even more cars are joining this pack as Mark Radica, the 59, another driver that we haven't seen all race long. He's found his way up into the top 10 as well.
And the guys that were involved earlier in the race in accidents, Liam Sheen we saw under the caution hit the wall, and Matt Gelder, who dropped below the yellow line to cause a caution. John King around. Heavy hit in the wall.
And a lone car spin and a big crash for him, but he's down on the apron, so we'll stay green. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 laps to go when we come across the start-finish line.
Do you have to count that on your hand then?
I did. I don't know why. It's 5 laps to go then. It's Eddie Hawkes by 600ths of a second, 700ths of a second this time by Pateklis continuing to give him the big push. Mike Kelly trying to find something. He's got the kinetic teammate of Annie Ludwig behind him. Ludwig probably won't want to give a big push to Mike Kelly because it will disadvantage his teammates. And that's a big disadvantage for Mike Kelly. Tracy, if he can get to the outside, we might see a change of leads here. But at the moment, it seems like those two kinetic cars on the inside are controlling this race right now. No one is able to get a run and get by them. As Tracy does clear Mike Kelly now, and he does go to the outside, so Kelly's going to be able to push him. Ludwig goes to the inside, can't quite get down there. The 59 had to lift off. Radika now finally lets him in. Sideways goes to 22, and around they go. Rob Goal and McGreevy get involved as well. Tracy manages to get through. McGreevy sideways and spinning Joshua Mertz, making a trip through the infield. And it all comes unstuck. And you know what this means, Jay? We're going to get a green-white checkered.
Hey, you said I don't predict right things.
We're going to have a 2-lap dash to get him home to the finish. Matt Jordan with big damage as well. And it was all looking so good. And then suddenly it all looked very horrible indeed, Jay. What on earth happened here?
So, but Teclis just came up a tiny little bit. Marcus Tracy came down a tiny little bit. I think Pateklis was sort of distracted a little bit by... You just saw right on the left of shot that there was a car coming out of the pits. I think Pateklis caught that out of the corner of his eye. See if we can catch it from an on-board potentially. Let's get on board with Pateklis here. You see, just on the inside here, you'll see a car come out of the pits. And I've got a feeling Pateklis has just caught that out of the corner of his eye. I'm not going to be able to see it. There it is. And I think that he's slightly moved high with that distraction, and that's caused the incident. Unfortunate that that's happened, but I think that's all it was. And he's only moved up maybe 3 or 4 inches, and that's enough at that section of the circuit when you're doing 200 miles an hour, when you've got a car basically side drafting right beside you, for it to cause a huge, huge incident. Marcus Tracy has managed to continue on, and this helps him out because he gets another caution, but he'll be very, very, very close on fuel now. Pateklis will bring it into the pits, but Marcus Tracy must be running on the absolute minimum amount of fuel right now. He'll be clutching the entire way around under this caution.
Interestingly, he's not.
Wow.
Mike Kelly, is he going to pit? Well, he's got damage,
He's got damage,
so that would
yeah.
probably suggest, yes, he will pit. That's a big shame for him. Hopefully for his sake, he's got a spare car ready and waiting for him because he's been the one driver at the front the entire race, along with Eddie Hawks and Ernie Ludwig. Eddie Hawks then is going to restart from the lead for this lone green-white checkered attempt. Marcus Tracy will be to his outside. Mark Radika has got a big shot now. He starts from 3rd. Ernie Ludwig will be 4th, so he's on the wrong side of the track to help his teammates. The kinetic cars have been broken up. Brian Barnes, another driver, where's he come from? He'll restart from 6th. George Angus is a lapped car in 24th. Scott Corbin's got a clean car in 7th. Lynn Kitchelow has got a little bit of damage, but it looks fast enough. And Mike Kelly has come back out on track with a clean car. So he could still do this. I mean, a green-white checkered, you would say from at the front 3 rows could possibly win it, especially if they go 3 wide. And once we get, of course, we'll explain the green-white checkered for those that aren't aware, Jay. So, as it sounds, they'll come around, they'll get the green flag, they'll go around. If the yellow flag flies before they get to the white flag, it will end the race. If they get the white flag, they'll come back to the start-finish line no matter what happens. And I would love to see what would happen if everyone crashed.
Fingers crossed we don't find out today. Today is not the race we want to find that out.
Trying to get back to the start-finish line. I've always pondered what would happen if that happened. We've never seen it. It's a highly unlikely scenario, and I'm praying it doesn't happen today. I want to see a crazy finish. In the support race, I think it was just the International Region support race last night, Jay. You know what I'm talking about.
Sure do.
The finish was it 1,000th of a second between the top 2?
Yep, 1,000th of a second, and was a big push over the line which meant Jason Martin picked up P number 2 and P1 went to, got the photo right here,
Thornhurst?
Thornhurst, yes, it was Thornhurst who won by a thousandth of a second with a push from Daniel Stevens. So, yeah, very, very tight finish there in the international support region. International region support race, even. Which, of course, there is a support race each and every weekend for the major series. The week before the main event. Bit of a practice race. Counts towards the laps required that you need to do to make the race each week. So if you don't do the support races, make sure you do jump in. It's a good chance to get out there and get a bit of familiarity. Jeez, I'm doing a good job of butchering the English language today. But yeah, it's always a good way to get your form guide ready as well. You know where your pace is and understand who you're going to be racing against and how much pace you do have. Of course, fixed setup as well does help too, because you're then back with evenly matched cars, so then the setup means absolutely nothing. It's back to your actual skill. So it's a good chance for drivers to get out there and try and see what they can do.
So Mike Kelly is filtered back out into 6th place. Surely he can't win this race after being involved in the caution that brought out the green-white-checkered. It'd be a phenomenal comeback. He'd have to have the mother of all runs to get there from 6.
Even if you think back to lap 6 when he almost ended up in the inside wall from the lead of the race.
Yes.
So we're about to get the signal of 1 to go. Lights are off on the front of the Mustang pace car, and we will go green for 2 laps of racing left, or 2 laps left. Hopefully they're both racing laps.
Please at least make it to the white flag here. We want to see this race finish under green. It's a huge shame, isn't it, when you have a race and it finishes under yellow flag conditions. The introduction of the green-white-checkered to the iRacing service was a huge addition, or a huge step in preventing that from happening. Of course, for the sake of time constraints and not going on forever, we've got to limit the green-white-checkers. Just the 1 today. If we had 3, and we'll think how long this one's gone on for before we get back underway. If we had 3 of them, as they have in, as they did have in real life, it would take forever. I think now they've got limited attempts, don't they, in the Cup Series?
Look, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't actually get to watch any of it last year, considering the TV coverage ended here in Australia, so a bit disappointing in that. But yeah, I do know that the overtime rule has changed again for 2020. I haven't actually looked too much into that yet. But imagine if we had unlimited green-white-checkers, people would have to come in for fuel almost every caution just to make sure they had enough. So yeah, 1 attempt I think is great for this length of race, but we'll see the 3 attempts. Hopefully we don't need them next week in the big race for the 500, but here we go.
Eddie Hawks versus Marcus Tracy. Ludwig and Radaka on the 2nd row. Kelly and Barnes from row 3. 2 laps to go. Green flag back in the air here at Daytona. The clash gets back underway for the final time. And it's a good start for the 45. But he's going to be under a bit of pressure here. Down to the inside goes. And there could be a caution, and there it is. And that's the race, and that's a big shame. It's going to finish under caution. Eddie Hawks will win this one. Marcus Tracy will pick up 2nd. And you've got to wonder why that caution came out before they even reached turn 1.
That was just a little bit silly from some of these drivers here. They were a little bit too aggressive. Didn't need to push that hard. And now means that we're going to end up with a finish under caution. And that was Andy Ludwig. You might nearly need to put a bit of the blame on him. We need another look at that, because watch Ludwig in the red car on the outside. He will actually jump on board. He's just turned down, and there was no real gap, was there? It wasn't clear when he's turned down, so I think, yeah, we're going to have to put that one on Andy Ludwig, unfortunately. But white flag is now in the air under caution. Watch it from the chopper here. You can see from chopper that there was no room. Wasn't even, yeah, still a fair bit of bumper across the nose, and that's brought out that final caution of the race. So unfortunate for one kinetic car, but Eddie Hawks has led a lot of laps in this race, and you'd have to say possibly deserved the win based on that alone.
Yep, it's a big shame how it finishes, but you can't take it away from the winner on the end, Eddie Hawks. He did what was required of him. He was leading when it mattered, and he was up front all race long, so he certainly deserved it. Marcus Tracy
Good job from Tracy.
came from nowhere to finish in second. Nick Kuhn was involved in a couple of incidents today, and he's going to finish in third. Brian Barnes as well came from the back to finish fourth, and Kitchelow from fifth. So a few drivers have benefited from just staying out of trouble near the end of the race and being there at the end. Brett Trozen has come from the back of the field, 36 to 6th place. What a race that he had.
Yep, good job from him to go all the way through the field, but well done to Tracy as well, only driver to take one stop in the race, but congratulations to Eddie Hawks. Cross the line and take the checkered flag. Not the way he would have wanted to win it under caution, but does pick up the win, and that's all that matters in the end with a win at Daytona. Fireworks going off in the background, as you can hear. Great result for the Kinetic Racing team, and congratulations to Dog Bear as well for getting 2 in the top 3. Great result for the team as well.
It is indeed, and Kinetic could have had a really good day today. In the end, it would just be the sole car in the top 5. They had almost 3 or 4 cars up there in the top 10 at one point. But it's so hard to be there all race long. Eddie Hawk showed us how to do it. You just got to make sure you're in the right line at the right time. You've got to really get it. You get a knack, don't you, over the course of your time racing on these tracks as the fireworks pop off down that back straightaway. You get a feel, really, in a sense, for what lane you should really be in. You have a lane you're most comfortable in. And sometimes it's not the best lane. If the inside's working well, you're going to be there. But if the outside's hooked up, if there's more cars there, you've got to get to that outside lane. You've got to predict when that run's going to come. And you've really got to be smart. You've got to be smart, and Eddie Hawks was more than smart today. He got the luck when he needed it. You always need a bit of luck. But he kept that car up there, and that's definitely well deserved. And I'd say we should probably go through our results now, AJ.
Yeah, and just on that too, Eddie Hawks was at the front all race long, so
Yeah.
can't say he didn't deserve to get the win, considering he was within that top 3 pretty much all race long. So well done, Eddie Hawks, and well done to Kinetic Racing and to Dog Bear Racing for podium spots.
So, as we just said, Eddie Hawks wins, and Tracy, Kuhn, Barnes, Kitchelow, Trozen 6th, Corbin 7th, and then McGreevy coming home in 8th, Liam Sheen in 9th. Pateklis came home in 10th place in the end after that crash right at the end.
Yeah, and then we've got Belval in 11th position and Mike Kelly in 12th from pole. Good result in the end. Unfortunately, he was taken out in a couple of incidents. Didn't really do too much wrong in that race other than find himself in the wrong spot at the wrong time. So unfortunate for him. Homan and Wiggett in 13th and 14th with Schumer and Ludwig. Next, the last car in the lead lap in the end is Rediker with Hagstrom and Pesciaponti in 18th and 19th, 1 lap down. The lead car 2 laps down, Mark McFadden.
21st, Christopher Ems. 22nd was George Angus. Gerard Gilbert coming home in 23rd place ahead of Steve Driscoll and Joshua Mertz. Rob Goll finished 26th, Matt Gelder 27th, Mike Galati 28th, and John King and Michael Lane rounded out that top 30 with retirements in those machines.
Yeah, and then the rest of the retirements as well. Hutchison, Beltrami, Villegas, who was up the front at some points as well. Mel Brown, Johnson, Walling, and then Olet didn't take the start, unfortunately. Had some tech issues himself, so yeah, what a race that was. What an event, and bring on the main event next week. Cannot wait for the majors. Daytona 500. Looking forward to it, and all 3 regions should be action-packed and absolutely stacked.
Certainly should be. If that is anything like we saw today, it will be a fantastic race in all 3 regions. all live on the iRacing Esports Network. But before then, there's a few more broadcasts coming up for the network, but also for SimSpeed TV. What have we got? We've got coming up on Monday night, we've got the Supercar Strength of Field. We've got Just Send It, where the pro drivers go up against some of the sim racers, or any of the sim racers that really want to join. Get to race against the pros on Tuesday night and Just Send It. Then on Wednesday night, the Australian Turbo Touring Car, iRacing Series, plus plenty more still to come. And a few things still to be announced as well by SimSpeed TV. But I think that'll do us for tonight. From myself, Ryan Jones, from Jay Kennedy, alongside me. It's been a pleasure calling this one. It was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed it too. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top
Oh
here.
my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?